So, hi, and thank you so much for
Hi.
taking the time to do this
Yeah, of
interview.
course.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Thank you very much. It's a bit warm here. It's a warm day, so I'll show you the sights here.
Wow, that looks
There's the
really
sun.
nice.
Yeah, it's nice. Nice. This is my studio. I'm rebuilding the studio because it's a total mess here, as you can see.
Yeah,
Just yesterday, the guys came and we got like a whole new studio here. So yeah, I'm keeping myself busy.
that's nice. Well,
Yeah.
first of all, I want to congratulate you with the new album, Transitus.
Thank you. Thank you.
You've had a couple of busy years. You've had like a lot of shows, the Aryan Universe,
Right, right, yes,
uh,
yeah,
the anniversary of Electric Castle.
right.
Where did you find the time to write Transitus?
Actually, people always think I'm like really busy and stuff, but I'm not really. I'm not a social person. I'm always at home. I don't have friends. I don't have friends. I don't have any social life. I don't have kids. I don't have a job. My music is my job. So I've got plenty of time. But actually, to answer your question, I started working on this 3 years ago, so 2017. So yeah, no, I had plenty of time to write this, and well, originally it was going to be a movie. It wasn't going to be an Arion album.
All right.
So yeah. I was just writing a movie basically, like Jesus Christ Superstar, like Tommy, that kind
Yeah.
of movie.
Yeah.
And yeah, for the first 2 years it was going to be a movie, but then of course the whole Corona thing happened,
Yeah.
and a movie is expensive. It's like an expensive movie costs like $200 million.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a low budget movie costs $10 million, which is still a lot of money. And and now in these days, no one is going to invest in a movie. They just yeah, there's other things to invest in at the moment. And of course, you can't make a movie because you have a group of people that can't be together with the whole social distancing. So yeah, at some point I was like, okay, it won't be a movie, or maybe not yet, maybe one
Yeah.
day. So maybe I can just release it as an album. So I went to the record company, and I played them the stuff, and I was like, well, what do you think? Can you release this? Do you like it? And they. They said, "Yeah, sure. Yeah, it sounds like an Arion. It's very different from your other Arion albums, and it's especially from the last Arion album." But they said, yeah, no, no problem. We can. I think we can release it as an Arion. It has all the ingredients, the many
Yeah.
instruments, the many different styles, the many guest musicians, the whole concept and stuff. So yeah, in the end, I've been working on it for 3 years, and in between we did the Arion shows, but luckily I have Joost van der Broek, the keyboard player. Um, who is a genius, and he puts together the live shows. So I only do the music part, and
Hmm.
he does all the organizing, and we have this whole production team. So that's all the time I invest in that is like a meeting once every month or something. So that's a long answer to your question.
Yeah, it's actually interesting that you mentioned Jesus Christ Superstar because I
Yeah.
felt like it could be one of your reference materials,
Oh
especially
yes, you heard that
how
well.
people are like
Yeah,
accusing him, like,
yeah, yeah.
Um, I also felt like, with the narrator, it reminded me a little bit of Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds.
Oh yes, you've got the
Yeah.
influences right there.
Are there any other inspirations for this
Many,
album?
many. I totally stole this whole album. Not even inspired. I just stole. It just like you said, G Scorp Superstar, a song like um, Listen to My Story. It's
Yeah.
totally G Scorp Superstar. And of course, yeah, Richard Burton in War of the Worlds is amazing. His voiceover is so good. And actually, my album didn't have voiceover. the first 2 years. And then I played it to people, and I was like, "Well, what do you think of it?" And they were like, "Yeah, yeah, it's hard to get into the story, you know." And I was like, maybe a narrator would be cool, but if it's a narrator, it has to be like really good, you know. It has to be a
Yeah.
really good narrator. Otherwise, it's just boring, you know. It's a guy talking through the music, just like, shut up, give us the music. But like you say with War of the Worlds, I was always waiting for Richard Burton, you know, for that voice
Yeah.
to tell me the story. So I thought if I have a narrator, it should be like really, really, really good. Um, it should be like a mature voice. It should be like a man telling his son a story. And it should be a storyteller. So so yeah, luckily I got one of my favorite actors that I grew up with. You know, watching Doctor Who every week, I was totally hooked on it. And for me to be able to get that guy, you know, that was so amazing. And I when I met him, I flew to England to record him, and when I met him, he was so nice, such a nice guy, he it wasn't a job for him, you know. He totally got into the lyrics and he made them his own, and he put his own personal feel touch to it, and that was one of the best days of my life. So was I answering your question? What was your question? Oh, other influences. uh, yeah. Uh, uh, War of the Worlds. Well, Pink Floyd, The Wall, of course. I mean, there's always a lot of Pink Floyd in my music, as you can hear. Um, I think a lot of film music too, like John Carpenter, Halloween. I don't know if you know the little piano theme. Can I play it? Oh, you know, I
Yeah.
can't play it now. It's out of tune. But that was an influence. And The Omen. I don't know if you know the score of The Omen. It's got this huge choir going. Ave Satani, you know, and so that's also a feeling I wanted to get across. The Jerry Goldsmith, I think that was
Yeah.
The Omen. Ennio Morricone, you know, who recently died,
Oh,
he was a
yeah.
big influence on me. Like the soprano singing, you know, I love that in his music. So I especially got Dianne van Giersbergen here to sing the whole soprano thing. So yeah, a lot of stealing.
Yeah. Actually, that whole section with Diana is like really like it gives you goosebumps when you hear it,
Cool,
and already the
cool,
trailer, so it's
cool,
actually a very good part, even if it's so small, short.
cool, cool. Yeah, it's just it was again like the narration. It was a last minute addition.
Yeah.
Everything was ready, and I thought there's something missing. Um, and then suddenly I got the idea, Dion, and she was only going to do one little part in the beginning, but then that was so cool, and it's always the same with me. And then we just go through all the material. Can we add more? Can we add more? So I think she did 3 or 4 songs in the end. It was only planned to be one. So that was all spontaneous, basically.
Considering it was supposed to be a movie, was it difficult for you to find the right musicians to be part of this project, or did that kind of change later on when you decided you would make it into an album eventually?
Uh, Everything was finished to when I decided to release it as an album. So that's basically that was all done. But yeah, it was different because usually I pick the singers and I just listen to their voice. You know, I just listen to what do they sound like. But this time I was like, okay, it would be very cool if the singers on the album would actually also be the actors in the movie. So I had to pick the singers also by the way they look. So they had to have charisma, they had to look good, they had to look the part,
Mhm.
they had to fit the character, or I had to fit the character to the actors, what I often do. Because for instance, the first two I thought of were like Tommy and Simone, because they're both beautiful people, you know, and they both have charisma, a lot of experience with video clips and stuff. They were going to be the two main characters. It was going to be Daniel and Abby. Simona was going to be the poor servant girl.
Mhm.
Um, but then I heard Cammy. I heard a compilation album. I heard her sing. What was it? Whiter Shade of Pale or something. And
Yeah.
with and I didn't know it. And then I was looking, and it was Oceans of Slumber. And I went to YouTube, and I saw like, whoa, what a voice! What a great voice! And I saw she was a black girl, and I was like, I contacted her, and I said. I didn't expect her to know my music, you know. I was like explaining who I was, and she was I know who you are, and I love your music. And I was like, ah, really? And then I suddenly had the idea it would be so cool if she would be the servant girl, you know, because it plays in the 19th century, and of course
Yeah.
there were a lot of taboos right then. You know, you could rich and poor, like Tom Baker says in the end, rich and poor, black and white. You know that was all not done, so it would make the story interesting. So I asked Kenny. I said, "What do you think? You know, what do you think of that?" And she said, "No, I totally agree. You know, that makes the story so more interesting." So yeah, that's basically how I work. I just keep changing things and keep adapting things. Um, because I had to learn that because when I started with AYREON, I had one idea and I wanted to do that idea, you know, and that's it. And I really had to learn to open up and to keep changing and like adapting my plans. So.
Considering it was supposed to be a movie, I feel like the lyrics are indeed styled in a way that you kind of need visual inputs, so to say, to
Hmm.
completely get the picture, you know?
Yeah.
Um, was it difficult for you to like put in the lyrics, you know, the what parts you should put in there and what should be left to the imagination?
Uh, I I I I, oh, I never like to leave too much to the imagination. I like to help people. Also, when I watch a TV series or a movie, I don't want to be in the dark, you know.
Yeah.
I want to be able to follow the story. It's so often that I can't follow the story. And who is that? And did we see this person before? And you know, when it's complicated, I fall asleep. It's always the same. So I want to help people. I don't want to make it too complicated. Um, which is, I think, often why I read reviews and people say his lyrics is cheesy. I think they just think it's cheesy because they can follow them. It's really,
Yeah.
you know, if sometimes you hear lyrics and they're so complicated, what the hell is he talking about? Everything, oh, it's so deep and it's so good, you know. While I think the person himself doesn't even know what it's about, you know. And then they say, no, we like to leave things up to the imagination and people have to, you know. Um, no, I'm more of a guy who wants to make it as clear as possible. And I think also that's where my decision came from to do a comic book,
Yeah.
especially when the movie was getting difficult with the whole Corona thing. I was like, well, at least, you know, I want to have that comic book. Um, because then it will be easy to follow the story. You know, you just read the comic book, listen to the music, and that's when I decide, okay, I want a comic book, but if I do that, I want like the best in the world. You know, I'm just spoiled. I work with the best singers and the best guitar players and musicians in the world, and for comic book, I wanted the same thing. So I've been looking around, and I ended up in Chile, where there was a publisher, and he had like lots of artists, fantasy artists, and I saw Felix. He was like number 3 of the 10 that he sent, and I was like, oh my God, that's the guy. You know, that's just perfect. So I contacted him, and luckily he liked the idea. And he liked the music, which is very important to me. You know, if you have to work with a guy who doesn't like the music, it's like, I don't know, there's something missing. You know, it's cool when you can
Yeah.
inspire each other. When he sends me stuff which inspires me, and then I send him music, and it inspires him. So, am I answering your question again?
Yeah. I think so.
I
I
think
always
this
forget
is a part of
that.
it.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you also picked the artist, I presume, because of a style. I felt that it's kind of a European comic style for some reason. It felt like that.
Hmm.
But did you have like a visuals in your mind already with what you wanted, and did you
Yeah.
work like out a storyboard of yourself or somehow, or did you give him completely free hand?
No, no, no. I'm not good at giving free hands. Too much of a control freak for that. No, I had a lot of visions already. I knew what it should look like. I wanted it to be very colorful. I wanted it to be very gothic, very 19th century, and I wanted the fantasy aspect was very important for me. Um, and then I was like, of course, okay, I was a comic book nerd when I was a kid. I used to read comics while other people were playing outside in the sun, and I had my curtains closed and read comics. So no, I definitely knew what I wanted, and I told Felix, I told him from the beginning. I said, I'm a terrible control freak, and I know exactly what I want, and I was a bit afraid because I never made a comic book. How do you make a comic book? Where do you start? So I thought, let's not watch YouTube, let's not read books, let's just try it. So I just started writing. Okay, this first page, I want a view of the house, which is, of course, as you can see, stolen from Psycho, another thing I stole. Uh, then how did it go? Yeah, no, no. Then I was like first page. Okay, I want 6 panels. I want these kind of clothes, and this person is saying that, that person is thinking that. The background should be this, and just made a whole script, like you said. I made a script,
Yeah.
page by page. I gave him exactly how many panels, what should happen in the panels, and the cool thing is, all these instructions or suggestions they are in the earbook. So if you buy the earbook, the first half is the comic book, and the second half is all the sketches, and his sketches and all my instructions. So I sent him instructions. Then he made sketches. He sent me the sketches, which were just black and white, of course.
Mhm.
And then I commented on the sketches. No, this should be different. That should be different, etc. And it was cool actually. It was cool to do it. I was a bit afraid in the beginning, like, can I do that? But I think it took us like two page, no, 2 weeks per page. So we
Yeah.
worked on it almost for a year. Um, but yeah, that's the perfectionist in me, and he didn't mind. He enjoyed the whole process, so that worked out good.
Um, what I also wanted to ask you about is the end of the comic book, which is not necessarily included in the album, I guess.
Right,
But
right.
without giving too much away from the story, I feel like the ending is a little bit, this kind of, well, you have this morale, and
Hmm.
there's what comes around thing. Are you a
Yeah.
believer of karma, or why did you decide to end the story in that way?
Do you mean like the very ending, like the epilogue?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, basically, it's not very deep what I'm going to answer you. Um, I'm afraid I'm not a very deep person. Uh, I made an album called The Theory of Everything,
Yeah.
and Marco Hietala from Nightwish, he played a really evil character. Um, really evil character, and at the end of the story, he got away with it.
Yeah.
He got away with all the money, and he was like the bad character. And I got a lot of comments on that, like, "Hey, he just got away with it." And now I made this story, and the story was finished, and I realized, oh my God, the brother Henry, he was pretty evil in this story, and again, he got away with it. So I was like, this time I'm not gonna let him get away with it. So it was just an epilogue that's not on the album.
Yeah.
It's just one day he's gonna end up in Transitus, and the angel of death, they're gonna decide, are you going to go up or are you gonna go down? And obviously, the brother Henry, he was going to go down. And it's funny also. When I was a kid, I was always teased by my brother Gjeld, and because he was older than me, he was like 3, 4 years older. Um, so he always teased me, and he was always stronger than me and smarter than me, and everything was better than me. And then at some point, I started getting success as a musician, and I on every album I tease him a little bit. There's always one line where I'm teasing my brother. So I'm getting back for the old days. And my brother's middle name is Henry. So it's
Oh, okay.
Gjeld Henry Lucassen. So again, I got him.
And
Yeah.
what does he think about that? Does he like
He loves it.
realize?
He would miss it if I wouldn't insult him.
Okay. What are some of the other insults you put into the other albums?
The coolest was Universal Migrator. Oh no, there are two cool ones. Universal Migrator was cool because it had two albums. It was released as two albums. It was the Dream Sequence and the Flight of the Migrator. And on the Dream Sequence, I ended with shit. There's no more space in the booklet. Maybe I'll thank him on the other album. On album part 2. And then you looked at album part 2, and it said, of course, it said like, shit, there's no more space in this booklet. Maybe I'll answer him. I'll thank him in part 1. But the very coolest, and we even had to adapt the artwork for that, was I think it was Human Equation, and I ended by saying, and finally, for the first time, I would really like to thank my brother. And then there's like no more space in the booklet. And of course, you don't know where they are going to cut the booklet, So we had to make black bars on the side, so it would really be cut off by just the first 2 letters of his name. So yeah, it's very childish, but yeah, that's the way I am.
So talking about the Human Equation, there's also a track on the album, which is obviously, I guess, a reference to that
Right.
album.
You've got some good bridges all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
But I was wondering, when did you decide to include this in the album? Was it always supposed to be there, or is that an idea you had later on?
Oh no, nothing is always supposed to be there with me. It's all, it happens on the spur of the moment. And the fact is actually, it's always circumstances which lead up to that. It's never a plan. I told you before that Camille was going to play the main part, so not Simone.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, what about Simone then? I got to think a part of her for her. So the whole Angel of Death and the whole Transitus part wasn't in the story. I had to think up a role for Simone, and that's how the whole Angel of Death part came in. Where she's gonna decide, is Daniel allowed to go back to Earth, or to help to save Abby. And so yeah, that whole part came in because of Simone. And then she just had a small part, and I didn't want that, because I already told her she would have a main part on the album. So I had to find more tracks for her, but basically her part in the story was done. And then I had to find an extra track, and I thought, well, what about the Angel of Death and the Furies? They're up there in Transitus, and they're looking down on the earth, and they're like thinking about people, what do we think about people? Are they crazy, or are they intelligent? Are they cute, or are they ugly, or just what do they think of humans? And of course, then I came up with, okay, what is the human equation? What makes humans what they are? So yeah, it just crept in. It was like, okay, that's a good title, and it's a nice reference to an earlier album, which I like and which I know the fans like. And if you look in the comic book, there's also lots of hints to earlier albums, and there's a couple of hints that mean something, but of course that I want to leave up to the imagination.
Yeah.
Especially because the fans come up with way better ideas than me. It was with Theory of Everything. That was the ending was very complex. It was very vague. The ending of Theory of Everything, and of course I had like an ending in my mind, which was very strange. But then I saw the fan reactions, and there were really fans coming up with ideas that were like way cooler than what I had in my mind. So then I decided, okay, I'm not going to do a Theory of Everything part two, because yeah, and no, some things have to be left up to the imagination. I think
Yeah.
that's cool. I think you should give people enough to be able to come up with their own imagination. If you give them nothing, nothing will come. But if you give them enough and you leave some open spaces, or you leave something to read between the lines, I think that's way cooler.
A lot of the singers also, I feel like you kind of take them a little bit from their comfort zones, and especially in that song, Simone Simons
Oh,
does something
absolutely.
I would never expect her to do.
No.
But how do you come up with these ideas? Do you instantly can tell if a singer is able to do things like
Yeah.
that, or?
Yeah. That's one of my talents. I'm always putting myself down. I'm a terrible singer. I'm not a good guitar player. I'm not a good this. I'm not a good that. But I'm good at that. I'm good. I hear a singer, and I know what they can do. And also I want to take them out of their comfort zone. And I hear parts in their voice that they don't use in their own music, and that's why it's always such a big compliment for me if people say like, "Oh, I like this singer much more on your music than in his own music." Of course, it's not so cool for the for the singer himself, but for me, that's a big compliment. And Simona, of course, I've worked with her loads of times. And when you see her with Epica, she's always very serious and very dramatic and woo, and um, operatic and epic. Well, the band name says it, of course, Epica. But when she comes here, I see her standing now here. She's always joking, and she's always like a little bit of naughty jokes, and always making fun, and always that naughty. She always had that naughty look. Or naughty is maybe not the word. That I can't find a good word now, but there was always a twinkle in her eye. That's a good
Yeah.
one. And which you don't see when she's with Epica. And I thought, let's bring that out, and I think she can do a great. Yeah, you would see much more of her personality in the Angel of Death, like I have. Um, and I like a little bit of a comic aspect. I don't want people to take it too serious. There's always a lot of humor. I think humor is very important for me, and it
Yes.
keeps it from being too cheesy. So, and this album, this story is a dark story. There's like burning and people dying. It's it's not a fun story. So I definitely want to have some lighter moments, and especially Simone's part is like a lighter moment. And actually, tomorrow, if all goes well, we have a video clip with her. She came here the other day to film as the Angel of Death, and it's actually this human equation. So she did a great job. It's really cool.
Another fun track, I would say, like less dark, was A Dumb Piece of Rock with Mike
Right.
Mills.
Yes. Yeah.
How did you come up with that idea?
Well, same thing again. It was totally, the song was made for Mike. It was just the last few albums. I had Mike on the album, and he's my hero. He's my musical hero. I say it so often. He's such a star. He's such an amazing talent, and I want people to know him. And I want to always work with him. But on this album, I didn't have a part for him. All the parts were taken, and there was no part for him. So I really had to think of a part. How can I involve Mike? And then it wasn't Notre Dame. I don't know what movie it was. I was watching a lot of musicals and music movies, and there was a movie where they were in the army or something, and there was a poster of Uncle Sam,
Yeah.
on the wall. We want you to join the army, and the poster came alive. The poster just jumped off the wall, and Uncle Sam was walking around. I thought that was a very cool idea, and I thought, well, maybe some inanimate object will come to life. And I thought, well, we're in the 19th century, we're in the garden. Maybe they have these stone statues there, and maybe Daniel is a very, very introverted guy, and the
Mhm.
statue is his best friend, and all his life, his whole youth, he's been talking to this statue. But now, suddenly, in his imagination, of course, the statue comes alive, and of course, that would be cool for Mike. I mean, he's been a computer in my stories. He's been an evil father. He's been he had the weird parts in my so I contacted him and I was like, well, Mike, I got a weird part for you. I'm not sure you're gonna like it. You're gonna be a dumb piece of rock. He said, hey man, for you I'll play a banana. So yeah,
um, yeah. I mean, maybe in the next album you can make him a banana or something. You
really,
never know.
really, yeah. I'll think of a part, yeah.
So I know Arian is like a big project and you don't really like the hassle that comes with live shows.
Right.
Have you ever wondered how this would translate to stage? Considering you wanted to make a movie out of it, would a musical be like an option for you or?
Of course, yeah, yeah. I think anything can be done. Like Electric Castle was not set up to be performed live ever. Human Equation was not set up to be performed live ever. But if you put your mind to it, anything can be done. And especially with, as I mentioned to you, Joost, he can make everything happen. And we're just a great team. We spent like hours on the phone, just exchanging ideas. That's and then we come up with the best things. That would never on emails or whatever. That would never happen. We need to talk to each other. And I think Transit. I haven't thought about it. Transitus live to do it live. Um, but yeah, I'm sure it's possible, especially nowadays with the LED screens and with all the effects you can do. And yeah, it would be very cool. It would be very cool. So it would be possible, yes. But I haven't thought about it yet.
Yeah. Do you ever see the movie still happening in the future when this whole Corona thing is hopefully over?
I'm still, yeah, I'm still working on it. I'm still having meetings. Actually, I contacted a funding. There's a funding here in Holland, and someone told me, these people have plenty of money and they invest in culture. So I
Yeah.
just wrote a mail to them, and it couldn't have been better. Like the chief guy there, um, he's got my albums. I contacted him. I got a mail from him just 2 weeks ago. Well, I've got your. Well, he's got very old albums that I made like 40 years ago with Vengeance, and he said, "Yeah, man, I've been to your shows and I like your kind of music, so I'll come by and let's talk about this." So it's definitely still going. It's still an option. And I also contacted my favorite director of all time, in a Dutch director, Dick Maas. He made some movies you probably won't know, like The Lift and Amsterdam, and he did Familie Flodder, which was like very funny. And he was a guy who thinks outside the lines. He does whatever he wants. He doesn't give a shit what people tell him or ask him, or like me. He's
Yeah.
very much like me. And I contacted him, and again, he reacted really excited. He listened to my music. I was like, "Oh, I love your music," and we got together a couple of times. So he's also into it, and I keeping him updated about everything that's
Yeah.
happening. And so yeah, there is a team in place, and all the plans are in place. So maybe one day it will happen.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to end this interview. Do you have
Cool.
any last thoughts you want to share with people who are watching this and your fans?
I think I already talked way too much. No, I don't think so. No, I just, I'm insecure as ever. Always the moment I finish an album, I think it's the best thing I've ever done. But then I have to wait like 3 weeks before it's released, and 3 months, sorry, and that's terrible. That in those 3 months, the album becomes the worst thing I've ever done. Also, you start hearing reactions, and people can give 100 good reactions, and like on YouTube, you put a video out there, and the first 100 reactions are like perfect, brilliant, thumbs up. But then in the end, there come like two or three negative ones, and that's the ones you remember. And that's sometimes I also agree with it, oh, they're right, oh no, it's crappy. So right now I'm really insecure about the album, especially because it's very different. It's not this big metal extravaganza, or it's not very proggy with long instrumental parts. It's more like a musical, something I've
Yeah.
never done before. So um, so I hope fans will like it. I know they're very open-minded. My fans, they have to be, because my music is so eclectic. You go from one style to another, so you have to be open-minded. But still, it's like, oh my God, is this really an Arion album, and is it really good enough? And so yeah, I also in email I always warn people, like, I hope you like it, because it's very different from the previous one. I already like put out some warnings, and so yeah, I hope people will like it.
Well, I'm sure they will, or at least it,
Thank
it
you.
still sounds very Aryan to me.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. It's true. Yeah, yeah.